I want to look at the things that Blizzard needs to fix before Diablo 4 launches.
Hi, Zizrin here with another video about Diablo 4, and today we're going to talk about the server slam and things that were fixed and are great now, and we're going to focus on a lot of the negatives and give some feedback on what I think can be improved before the actual launch of Diablo 4. So I've been having quite a lot of fun now with Diablo 4, and let's first talk about some really big positives. First off, the issue with left mouse button click is now completely fixed. Now, without
I didn't know that, but apparently you can actually have just click to move with like left click, which is great.
Any third-party stuff, you can actually do move only and interact as in any other ARPG.
Yeah, massive
very,
change.
very happy. Diablo has been very behind the genre on this. So the fact that we have a fully functioning mouse button one is huge for me.
Absolutely.
Another thing that was really good was the loot drop rates. In the previous tests, the loot had all been like multiplied by 4 or 6 times, and even as early as like level 10 to 15, you would have multiple or even fully decked out on legendaries. Whereas now...
Oh yeah, well, I mean, that was clearly only for the beta. They just did that so they could get testing for the legendary effects and how they're going to affect how people play the game. So I feel like it was never actually intended to be that way to begin with.
Even while farming for a bit, I only had a few legendaries, and each legendary was a lot more exciting to actually get, and I really love the new drop rates, or the proper drop rates, I should say.
I don't even think they're going to have those drop rates whenever the game comes out, because we're going to go and we're going to be in World Tier 4 and 5. So, like, whenever we're in World... I think there's 5 World Tiers, right? There's 4 or 5. Well, we're going to be in, like, the highest World Tier or the second highest World Tier, and they're going to have way higher drop rates. We're going to be doing Nightmare Dungeons, getting way better gear. I think we're going to have legendaries all the time, even at the high level now. I just don't think that we're... Like, that's not at level 20, though.
Even at level 18, I had 2 blue gear, and yeah, it was a lot harder. I do still wish the game had some crafting. Things like upgrading rares, or sorry, upgrading blues or upgrading white.
Crafting is very rudimentary in Diablo 4. I don't want to see it turn into PoE crafting. That's insane. But I do want to see a little bit more to it.
Items. I mean, that's something they could do as a crafting league later. But I feel like every drop matters a lot more. I do still wish the stats on the items mattered more early, but that's, you know, not the end of the world and will be a function of the late game. Now, I do want to dive into some of the really bad negatives that I hope and wish that will be fixed for launch, because I think they're pretty big issues, and they're also very fixable issues. And I want to start off with the map overlay. This is a function that has been invented by Blizzard and has been in every single ARPG since, pretty much. And it's also been in every other Diablo, except this one. And so I'm talking about this. As you can see in the background, we have like Diablo 1. Every other game has this. It's a simple overlay.
Yeah, so like you can see the map, you can look at the map all like that. Diablo 3, I don't know if Diablo 3 had it or not. I don't really remember. I will tell you this, that I actually think that Blizzard's rationalization of why they don't want to have an overlay map is a good idea. And I think that Blizzard should try it. Blizzard should try it with no overlay map, because I actually do think that playing the game with the overlay map all the time is shit gameplay. I absolutely agree with them. However, the difference is that I don't want to see them hold on to this if it's obviously not working.
That like
not make it an option?
Over what
because
you
if you make it an option, then everybody has to do it. So like, there's a lot of things in games where if you put this function in, it's so useful and so good that everybody will do it, but in doing so, it will devalue the gameplay experience. I think a good example of that is like add-ons in Final Fantasy XIV versus add-ons in WoW. Like, obviously, this isn't a one-to-one comparison, but I think that's kind of the way they want people to play the game in a way that is like fun. And also, I think that I'm not agreeing with Blizzard. I'm just saying that I understand where they're coming from, and I think that they should try this approach and see how it goes. I'm not saying that, like, they're right. I think they might be right. I don't know yet. I have to play the game. But I want to see them try it.
They talked about it on one of the podcasts, and they're basically explaining exactly what's nice about it, why players want it, and then they're like, yeah, we're not going to have that.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is that they feel like it breaks immersion. They want people to focus on the game. I think
that's true.
That's terrible. because it's very like you think you do but you don't, and I'm really starting to hate that companies are doing this more and more. The more choice you give players, the better, because the alternative now, I'm just spam opening the map and closing it. I'm like opening, closing. Oh, but this is way worse for immersion. Way worse.
I think that's a very good point Zizaran brings up, is that the maps have to be intuitive to the point where you know where you're going to go just by looking at the map. Because if the maps aren't intuitive and you keep opening up the map over and over, you're just creating a worse version of an overlay map. Why spam the map? Because he doesn't know where to go. It's on the mini-map? Yeah, but like, so let's say it's on the mini-map, right? But you don't know if this area leads you into, like, see where my mouse is? This area leads you to the next level, or this area leads you to the next level. Now, I've played the game a lot. I know this area leads you to the next level, right? It's going to be, I think, this one, and then you wrap all the way around. However, a new player is not going to know that. So they're going to open up the map.
I love having the overlay. Like, it's not like some sort of necessary evil that I feel I like. I love having it. It makes me enjoy the game a lot more. The removal of choice there is very frustrating.
See,
let me know what you guys think about that. That's the number one thing now that I hope they fix before launch.
Server's down. Yeah,
previously was the mouse button one.
If you play these games, like, you're going to recognize tile sets instantaneously.
Thing which is fixed, so very happy about that. Another thing that would be really nice would be being able to enable a UI bar of your own character, like having health above your own.
Oh, I totally agree with them on this. I would love to have this. Any time that you're, any time that, like, let me go ahead and just explain it, right, with, like, MS Paint. So, any time that you have to go from like here, like, you want the player to be looking right here. You don't want them scrolling down here. And, like, the worst thing about Necromancer, for example, is, like, you're sitting here and you're looking at this stupid little fucking bar to see when your skeletons are going to be coming up and shit like that. It's so dumb. You should have, like, for example, I think that for skeletons, and if you go back and you look at, we're at 312. Okay, let's look at the PoE example real quick. Give me 1 second. Okay. So, in PoE, this thing right here is called Molten Shell. It's like just, it's a debuff. This right here, I think this is this haste? I don't remember. Is it haste or precision? I don't remember. But this is a specific buff. Also, he has, let me go back and just check again.
Goes over what you see.
Each of these things, is it precision? Yeah, I didn't think it was precision. Anyway, each of the things underneath his character show that he has a certain buff. And if you play the game a lot, you know that if you have that thing under your character, you have a buff. Each of the skeletons inside of in a Necromancer's, like, build should have that underneath their character innately for whenever they're being empowered by the priest and whenever they're not being empowered by the priest. So we'll see what happens, but I would really, really like to see that happen. It would be great. You don't need to play a lot. You need to learn it while leveling. Yeah, I mean, I just would like to see a little health bar over my head. PoE has that, and I think it's way better. True, but not visually overwhelming like PoE. Well, it's only one buff. DTU skeleton would show auras on them. I don't understand why they don't here. Yeah, I think it's because they're not ready to have, like, the finalized skeleton version.
Of your own character, like having health above your own character. As you can see here in Path of Exile, you can have, like, mana and life
you can
above
see
your
right
character
there
in the middle of the screen. This is really great, and I like that. I couldn't find a way to do that in Diablo 4.
You can't.
And the reason this is nice is because it lets you, like, not take your eyes off the combat while you're fighting.
Yeah, it's like, it's weird that they don't have this. So, like, what's the logic if the philosophy is you want players to be immersed in the game and you don't want them looking at menus all the time, but you want them to look down at their skill bar? Do you want them to look down at their health bar that's all the way down here? It seems like it's, you know, two different goals here.
You want to keep eyes on your health at all times. Having to look away for your health bar, maybe you're going to miss, like, evading a big attack. They surprisingly did a balance patch. I wasn't expecting that at all because, in my opinion, balance this early doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is going to be balance at the end game. And, like, Necromancer and Sork to some degree, but Sork was still very strong. But Necromancer,
I think that a balance patch was absolutely needed for Necromancer, because it just sucked to play in Act 1. Like, they could just rebalance. Like, Blizzard has an internal scaler for the skeleton's base life for each level that the player is. There's no reason they can't increase the base life and then have it level off over time.
got very nerfed. The minions were dying so much that they actually hotfixed it in the middle of the test and buffed the survivability and
Everybody
stuff like
hated
that
it.
of minions because they were dying that much that I did see on Twitter that some of the devs were playing Necro and they were like, yeah, this definitely doesn't feel good, let's address this. So I was very surprised by that, but it's also not really balanced I was expecting, I guess, right? I did quite like it. I was playing Necro and
I think that's the balance that matters the most, actually. Because if a game is bad at the beginning, that's the experience that everybody has. So if you're playing the game and your first impression is you're playing a Necromancer and the minions are garbage, you might think to yourself, I should just cut my losses and play something else. Yeah, your first impression is so important.
I thought it felt fine. Obviously, I didn't play much else this test. I focused on Necro.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to earn
I did
being
everything,
able to have
including
fun in the
Ashava
game.
on Necro, and it felt great. I was playing solo in a party. It's obviously going to be even easier. The only thing that was hard was farming the level 30 area, which is something you wouldn't do in the full game anyway. That's like an early access thing only because it's the only high level zone we could farm.
He's totally right. I think that everything in the beta was really easy except for Core Dragon, which is this area here. And even this was kind of easy. It was just because of the, the build that I had. So yeah, I mean, I don't think that it was actually like really hard as a Necromancer. There was no point whenever I was playing Necromancer that I was really challenged. It was just slow and not fun. And I'm glad that's what, and they fixed that, right?
So yeah, I think it'll be fine. I enjoyed Necro even after the nerf. I didn't get any crazy legendaries and it still played pretty well. The only annoying thing was resummoning the minions every...
Personally, I don't really like the way Necro plays. I'm going to be honest. Like, I love a minion build in PoE. I think minion builds in PoE are fucking amazing. But there's something about it where I just don't really feel like it's that cool.
Off a second. Now, another thing that's very frustrating for me in Diablo 4, this isn't objectively
Maybe it'll
bad, I
change at
guess.
max
It's just
level.
a different thing. But it's how unavoidable damage is. Other games have that you can sort of, just through good gameplay, dodge skills, whereas Diablo 4 puts a lot more focus on unavoidable auto attacks. I remember in one of my videos, people said, oh, this is a gear check, you're just supposed to outgear it. It's like, well, you can't really outgear things at level 3. So I was very surprised at like the crazy amounts of unavoidable auto attack hit damage early on, especially. And obviously, like, he is actually...
What does he think about? What do we think about this? Because I really need to think about this. You can dodge it. It's a skill issue. You can dodge a lot of them. Let's see what that's like at endgame. Yeah, let's see what it's like at endgame, and then I'll decide.
Actually correct in a way.
I know what
he's
he's
gear check
saying.
thing, which you will not have a problem
He's not
with
good.
later.
No, just Randus a god. I guarantee
You know,
he's better
it's
than
just
you.
weird. I'm a big fan of like combat where you can actually dodge it just by knowing how the moves go.
Yeah.
Whereas in Diablo 4, it is very like you're hit. It's interesting because they have the same technology as Path of Exile, where the blade is where you see it. And they've sort of made it so that it's sticking to the character a little bit more and you can't dodge a lot of the basic auto attacks. That's not the end of the world because a lot of the like big moves, they are very
They're
telegraphed.
very well
They're
telegraphed. I would say Ashava is an incredibly well-designed boss. Every single attack that Ashava does is perfectly telegraphed, and any time that you get hit by the boss, it's your fault.
dodgeable, like the goat jumping up in the air and slamming. That one-shots you
that's
on
great.
a lot of characters, but it's very, very easy to see.
Yeah.
I would love to see auto attacks being a little bit more dodgeable, just by like player skill, being able to run around a monster and not being hit. There are some you can do that on.
Maybe, I don't know. I think, again, it's something that I would decide. I think that only really matters for bosses. I think most bosses have avoidable mechanics, but I think we'll just have to wait and see. Except for getting off-screened by a sweep. Yeah, I do think they should reduce the range of the sweep. In general, I think any time that you are hit by something that happened off screen, it's bad.
But a lot will just hit you repeatedly. I do hope that they work on the stats on Diablo 4. It doesn't have to be super convoluted, but it is a little dull to me to get, for example, 100 attack power and my build is completely different. Everything is more better, right? It's not about upgrading my int and getting an extra 30 int, hitting any breakpoints or anything like that. It's just all about bigger number, go better. And
I think he brings up a good point here. He does, and it's like, what is the, like, where is the middle ground? Because you have the middle ground of bigger number, better person, bigger damage, better person, you know, like that, you know, more crit, more DPS, more kill. Versus like PoE, where there's like 9,000 different breakpoints and 5,000 different stats. I think that it's smart for them to start simple and maybe add in extra stats as time goes on. Kind of like how WoW added in haste and armor penetration and stuff like that, and spell pin. You get those breakpoints in a Paragon board? You do. Actually, that's a good point.
And yeah, I don't know. I'm so excited for the uniques because I hope and think that'll change a lot of it.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of cool uniques, Harlequin Quest coming back and things like that. Shaco. Very excited for those. Hopefully all the issues I have with stats are only an early game thing. But I am a bit worried about that. That's one of my main concerns is if itemization isn't fun, this won't be a fun game for me. And I do still think it has a little bit of an identity crisis.
Yeah, I agree with him. I think that's why I didn't play the server slam more, is the itemization and like being able to get cool gear just wasn't really possible. I also, like, I think close damage, vulnerability damage, and I think there's like CC'd damage. I don't think we need all three of those. I don't know. Maybe that's too. Maybe I'm wrong about this, but I find them to be very boring stats. Lucky hit, yeah. Like I don't know. Like I just think they're boring. We don't need elite damage either. Yeah, I don't think we need elite damage either. Yeah, lucky hit. I don't give a shit about lucky hit, but vulnerable is satisfying. Vulnerable is kind of satisfying because it allows you to. I guess they all do to an extent. I just wish they could be more interesting. I feel like they're not that interesting. I don't know really what else to say.
Said that a lot, and to explain what I mean by that is, they've said on podcasts and stuff that the skill tree is like, it's simple on purpose, right? They want it to be basic, easy to understand, and in Blizzard fashion, the game is aimed at casual players, right? But and they don't want the game to be Path of Exile, and I like that. I want every game to be different, but they have so many things. Like obviously, they have very unfriendly character respecs. They also have hardcore PvP.
I've been told this is not as bad as people are making it out to be, but we'll see if that's true.
Now that's actually not that crazy as some are pointing out, because it is on hardcore only. So obviously casual players are already not really incentivized to play hardcore in the first place. But there's just some things in the game that are a little bit more like new player unfriendly, and a lot of people were complaining that the game was too difficult, and I actually see where they're coming from, because I really like the difficulty, but I also really like difficult games. I play a lot of games on the hardest difficulty, and I had a lot.
I don't care if a boss takes 5 minutes to kill or 20 minutes to kill. But the problem that I have is whenever it takes 5 minutes to kill for one class and 20 minutes to kill for a druid. That's the issue that I have. I don't care if they want to make bosses an absolute fucking, like, just like, fucking brutal. But it should not be like that only for some classes. Every class should have to go through that struggle.
A lot of fun, so maybe the fact that I was having fun with it was not necessarily a good thing. And
I'm crazy,
huge
right?
amount of posts on Diablo 4 Reddits about people saying the difficulty is insane and that it's catered to the elite no-lifers and stuff, and
no,
they might be onto something. It is a little bit. So I don't know.
I really don't think so. Like I think it'll be okay, but the disparity with classes I think is the problem. Because I bet if you talk to the people and you take if you if every single person you had like a survey, right? And you had 2 questions. Do you think the game is too difficult in World Tier 2? And what class do you play? I bet almost every single person that plays a Necromancer or a Sorc would say no. And a much higher percentage that play Druid or Barbarian would say yes. That's what I think the real issue is.
Almost feels like there's like 2 or 3 different teams in the team. And some are trying to make it for a casual audience, and some are trying to make it for a no-lifer audience. So
depends on
I
the
do
end
feel
game.
like it's being pulled in a few directions. It'll be much more interesting to see how it turns out when we have the full picture. Because right now we
True.
only have some early game stuff. So my expectation was that we would have Path of Exile for the super sweaty no-lifers like myself, Last Epoch is somewhere in the middle, and Diablo 4 for more casual players that maybe just want to come home from their 9-to-5 job and do some casual gaming and slash some monsters, right? Similar to like Vermintide, Darktide, you know,
Yeah.
that just feels really good to just slaughter a bunch of monsters and not have to worry too much about using third-party tools to figure out your build and things like that. So I do wonder if that's what we're going to see. I hope so. I am definitely expecting and hoping Diablo 4 will be a bit of a more casual game, but we'll see how.
Well, I think it definitely will be a lot more casual. I also think that with Diablo 4, whenever you die in Diablo 4, it doesn't really matter. But in PoE, whenever you die, you lose experience. So that just inherently makes PoE harder, and it makes it more punishing. So, like, if you die sometimes in Diablo 4, it's not really a big deal. Like, mistakes happen. Who gives a fuck? You just run back. So, yeah, I don't want to see it be, like fucking brutally difficult, but I don't think that World 2 is brutally difficult. I think that some of the fights are really frustrating and not fun to do as melee, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're hard. They're not hard fights fundamentally. They're just hard because of the way the game is designed.
How it turns out. Another thing that I wonder if it will be changed at launch is the music. It's right now a very big focus on ambience and like just background noise. I've been listening to the Darktide OST and I'm being like, oh my god, this music is single-handedly making the game 30% better. That's a 30% more multiplier. It's been so much nicer to have that, and especially when it lines up with the combat, like some really cool Darktide tune starts as I'm walking into a boss room. I'm like, yes. They have added.
I think the best example of this is, like Belshazzar Gate 6, where she does like that thing and everybody has to avoid the meteors, and it starts playing that fucking opera music, and it's badass. And I think obviously like Final Fantasy 14, you could use that example for like any boss.
Some now music for boss fights and stuff, but the fact that most of it is so ambient makes me feel like I don't really want to like play it all the time, and I'm just gonna listen to my own stuff anyway. I do love when the game itself has like really cool music, but I've also seen a lot of people say positive things about that, and they love the ambience, like scary background music that Diablo 4 has.
I would love to see them have more interesting music. You know, I think that would be fucking amazing. Like, imagine if like part of the Diablo soundtrack was made by like Trent Reznor or Ghost. I mean, fuck. I think that would be awesome.
In the tests, there's also been some like loading jank and like, you know, just your rubber banding back and forth while standing on bridge.
Like Doom?
But hopefully
Yeah,
that'll
the guy
also
that
be
made
ironed
Doom.
out by launch. One thing I do really want to congratulate
Nickelback?
on, the
Yeah, there
servers
you go.
have been incredibly smooth. In all of the tests, I was honestly in the start, I was not expecting to be able to play until day 2, day 3. And I was saying that, wow, the early access buy to play early isn't actually that bad, because we probably won't be able to play until day 3 or 4 anyway. This actually makes the early access thing a lot worse, because it looks like you'll be able to play instantly. So you will just have a 4-day head start. And obviously nothing is more important than the first time you're playing.
Yeah, it is.
And season 1, 2, and potentially even 3 won't have a ladder anyway. You're just playing the game the same as on ladder with a 4-day early start. Oh, it's a bit crazy. I really hate that companies do this like you have to pay to play early thing. I'm very against it personally.
It's fucking bullshit. It's fucking pay to win. It's consumer unfriendly. And if I was making a game, I would do it. I said it before. I'll say it again.
But either way, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have any feedback on things you enjoyed or didn't like
That's a
of
really
Diablo
good
4 that
voice.
you hope to see fixed before the launch.
Ooh.
Thanks for watching. Sub if you liked the video, but more importantly, try to die less than I do.
Sork looks so much better to play than the other classes. That looks so much more smooth. Damn. Have you seen Grim Dawn? Yeah, I have. I played the game. I didn't play it. I watched the game. I watched Alkaiser play the game. It felt pretty slow. I don't know. Like, it didn't really seem like that exciting to me. Have you heard the Akan music? No, I haven't. I have not. Anyway, I pretty much agree with everything he's saying in this. I don't know about the mini map or the overlay map. And what I mean by I don't know, I really mean I don't know what the right option is. I think that Blizzard should try to use like their vision for what they want the game to be. And then if players aren't, it's not resonating with players, it's not working the way they want it to, then maybe add a mini map later. Because like they can't add it and then take it away, right? So it's better for them to start without it and then add it based off of community feedback. Again, super excited for Diablo 4. I'm going to play the fuck out of this game. Yeah, like I'm going to play it a lot. I'm excited for the game, and I mean, I don't know what else to say. There you go. Yeah, I hope it's good. I hope it's fun.